Hey friends, welcome to the Applique Market channel. I'm going to show you today how to make our in the hoop face mask. It's made mostly in your embroidery machine, and then you go to your sewing machine for the last couple of steps. And I'm also going to show you what I've been using for ties, since elastic is really hard to find right now. I'll show you how to use elastic if you have it, and if you don't have it, I'm going to show you how I use some t-shirt material for some ties. So here we go. Okay, so to make the t-shirt ties, I just cut a t-shirt into 1-inch strips. You could measure, you could use a rotary cutter and a ruler. I did not go that precise. I just cut down my t-shirt and I kind of eyeballed it, and I cut 1-inch strips just like this. And then after the strips are cut, I just sort of cut the seams away. So the seams would be out of there, and that's no good. And then I just took the strip and I kind of pulled it and stretched it a little bit, and they'll just start to curl up, and then you have your tie. Now, the nice thing about this is you can make them a little longer just in case, and then whoever ends up wearing the mask, if they're too long, they can just cut them with scissors, because you don't have to worry about raveling. Well, it's gonna ravel, but you don't have to worry about threads and that type of things. Okay, so here's a finished mask, and this one has ribbon because elastic was not available to me. But if you were using elastic, it would look something like this with the elastic. There is an opening in the mask, in the finished mask, for you to insert a filter if you want. When we get to the end, I will show you that this can either be stitched closed, or it can be stitched and left open like I did here for the filter to go in. And then some people are inserting a little pipe cleaner for the nose, so that's an option. I have not done that, so I don't really have instructions on that. And so you can use the same fabric for both or different. And here we go. Okay, here's what you'll need for the project. You'll need our design file, which you can find at appliquemarket.com. You will need 2 pieces of fabric for the front and the back of the mask, and you'll need something for the ties, either elastic if you have it, or you can make ties from ribbon, or this is a t-shirt that has been cut into strips. You'll need stabilizer, and then when you get to the end, you will need to finish it up on a regular sewing machine. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hoop our stabilizer, and we're going to stitch down the placement stitch for the first piece of fabric. Okay, so we have our placement down, and we're going to put our first fabric piece right side up over that. I'm going to use a little bit of spray to hold it down, not as much as I would on a normal applique, because I don't want all that sticky spray to be on the final mask. Now we're going to stitch the next step on the embroidery machine, which is the tack down for this, and it is also going to be the placement for the ties. Okay, so we have tacked down that fabric, and we also, in that step, is a placement for your ties. So if you're using elastic, you would do it something like this. This is 7 inches of elastic, and I'm gonna just tape it and have the tape out of the way of the stitching, and it would go like that. I'm showing you how to do that, but if you wanted to use the t-shirt ties, it would go pretty much the same way, except you would just have a lot longer there. So you would tape that down out of the way of the stitching. And so the next step is going to be the tack down for your ties. Now I'm not going to mix them, of course, on this. That was just to show you. So I'm going to put my other ties here and tack down for the next step. Okay, so our ties have been tacked down. So we're going to remove the tape. And we're going to do the last step on the embroidery machine, and that is going to be our second piece of fabric. So we're going to put this will be the front of the mask, and it's going to go face down or right side down over this. And it's kind of hard to use the sticky spray on this because of the ties, so I'm going to just use a couple of pieces of tape to hold everything down. Now we're going to tack this down on the embroidery machine in the last step. Okay, so after your final tack down has stitched, you'll have all the stitching around, and that's left open so that you can turn the mask. So now we're going to unhoop. We're going to remove the tape that we have in there. And depending on the stabilizer that you used, you can either tear it away. Mine was cut away, so I'm going to carefully cut the stabilizer. And I'm going to cut it from here also, because the mask that I'm making was requested to have just the fabric, and they're going to be inserting a filter. Obviously, tear away would have been better in this situation for me. I did not have a tear away large enough for this hoop, so this will work. So now we're going to trim the excess. Now when you are trimming here along the opening, just be careful that you leave enough there so that we can turn that in. In a minute you'll see what I mean. The rest of the edges can be trimmed a little bit closer. And I'm gonna clip the corners just a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to turn it right side out through the opening. Oops, we left a little bit of tape in there. And I'm going to come into these corners with my scissors and just pop them out as much as I can. Now I'm going to go to my iron and I'm going to press this nice and crisp, and I'm going to turn these inside and press it like that. So now it's pressed flat, and here is the opening. So we're going to put our pleats in, and we're going to stitch those on the sewing machine, and then when we go to the sewing machine, we can either stitch this closed or if you want to leave it open for a filter to be inserted later, we're just going to put a little bit of top stitching on each one while we leave them open. So here's how we do the pleats. So we're going to make 3 small pleats on each side. They do not have to be precise, and by the time you make the 3 pleats, it's going to pretty much take up almost your whole side here. So I found that the best way to do the pleats for me is really just to sort of eyeball, because they're really tiny pleats, and so I will just fold them. It's kind of hard to do all together once, but I fold them all the way, and then I'm going to press this like this, and then it's much easier when you get over to the sewing machine to stitch it. And you can press it really good, and then maybe put a couple pins in if you need it. And so I've been doing my pleats down and have the opening down for the filter down here. Okay, so now they're pressed, and you can put a couple pins in at this point to hold them, or you could even put a piece of tape to hold it for stitching. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine and stitch the very last part. Okay, so here is the completed mask. This is where we stitched the pleats down on each side. That's what the back will look like. And here is the opening for the insertion of the filter if you want. So I hope this helps you put the mask together. They're really simple. It goes really quick, and I hope you enjoy the design.